As you can see by the directions, we want to graph this equation here by plotting points, and they've already given us a partial table here. They've given us the x value and then a different value for the y. So what we'll do is just compute that y coordinate and that x coordinate. Let's see what we get. So first of all, let's start here by, I'll just write that equation. Y equals 1/3 x minus 2. And then when x is 3, right, we'll start here. When x is 3, we will get y equals 1/3 times 3 minus 2. And now these 3's cancel, so we're left with y equals 1 minus 2. Right, now be careful here. 3 into 3 is once. 1 times 1 is 1. So, or 1/3 of 3 is a 1. Either way you want to do it, but no matter what we do, we end up with y equals -1. So now let's put this -1 back up in here. So we'll get a -1 there. And now let's see what we can get when y is -2. So we will say down here maybe that y equals -2. And that's going to look like, okay, put that -2 in here for y. We're going to get -2 equals 1/3 x minus 2. Now, a couple of ways we can do this. Why don't we do this? Why don't we add 2 to each side? So if I add 2 to each side, so our plan is to do this. Let's add 2. But if I add 2 to each side, -2 plus 2 is a 0, and then -2 plus 2 is 0 here, and I'm just left with this. 0 equals 1/3 x, and the only way this can happen is for x to be 0, right? Remember that one from some of our earlier work? When you multiply two numbers together and you get 0, one of them has to be 0, and it sure isn't the 1/3, so it's got to be the x. So let's put that 0 back in to our table here. So there's our point. So here's one point, 3 and -1. So to the right, starting at the origin, to the right 3, down 1. Let's plot that point. To the right 3, down 1. And the second point is 0, -2. So no horizontal, but 2 on the vertical. -2 on the vertical. So we'll go 0 and then down to negative. Let's get the same color here. And then what we'll do is pass a line as best we can through these points. Here's a graph of that line. Let's graph this line here, 2x minus 7y equals 14. Now, I just like to write it because it gives me a feel for what I'm doing. Oh, let's write it correctly, though. It goes like this, doesn't it? How's it go? It goes 2x minus 7y equals 14. Now, notice this. This often happens in textbook problems, is that we've got the variables on one side and the constant on the other, and both of these coefficients, the 2 and the 7, divide evenly into the 14. So a nice way to do this is to write a little table, and this is called the intercept method. We're going to find the intercepts. And remember, the intercepts have one of the components being 0. So we'll start here. When x is 0, and I'm going to put a little star here because that'll, if I look back, that's the one I'm choosing. So if x is equal to 0, you put 0 back in here, and that term's gone, right? And then you just get -7y equals 14. So if we do that, now you can do that in your head, really, but it's 14 divided by -7, so that's -2. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to choose y to be 0. I'm choosing y to be 0, so I'll put a little star there indicating that's what I'm choosing. And then if y is 0, if I put that in here, that whole term is gone, and I get 2x equals 14. Then divide by 2. So what we're going to get here is that that x is equal to 14 over 2, which is 7. Let's graph this equation here by plotting points. Now, they're already giving us a couple points here, but let's try something else here, and we'll see that we actually get this. So I'm going to write that equation over here, 2x minus 7y equals 14, and here's what I notice. This happens a lot in textbook problems, is that you'll see the variables on one side and the constant on the other, and this is called general form or standard form. But look at this also. These coefficients divide evenly into the 14. Now when that happens, there's a nice way to do this. We'll set up a table of x and y, and we need only 2 points. And the 2 points that are easy to get are the intercepts. And here's how we'll do this. In the intercepts, one of the components is 0. So suppose that we did this. Suppose in this table here we choose x to be 0. Now I'll put a little star there saying that's the one I chose. Now if I let x equal 0, put that 0 back in here. That term is gone. And then you end up with negative 7y equals 14. And to get y, you just divide by negative 7, right? So what we're getting here really is 14 divided by negative 7 is negative 2. And if you look at the table over here, what did they give us? They gave us negative 2. So what they had in mind is that we should put negative 2 in here, and then we would see x is 0. I'm going to do it this way. I think it's more direct. Now, let's choose y to be 0. I'll put a little star there. That's the one I'm choosing. And if I choose y to be 0 and put that in here, that whole term is gone, and I'm left with 2x equals 14. And then I can get x by dividing by 2. So we're going to get 14 divided by 2, which is 7. And if you look back to our table that they gave us, that's the 7. So they had in mind we'd put a 7 here, and then we would get, or we'd put, 7 here, and then we'd get 0 for y. I like to choose the zeros and get those values. So now let's just complete our table. So when y is negative 2, we get a 0 here for this x. And when x is 7, we get a 0. Let's plot these 2 points. So 0, negative 2. 0, negative 2. No horizontal, but down 2. Right there. And this point here is to the right 7, right positive. To the right 7, up or down 0. So to the right 7, way out here. Put a point there. And then as best we can, we'll pass a line through those 2 points. And there's our line. Graph the equation.